All right.
I've come to rest.
Give you a couple seconds to,
Yeah,
I didn't want to just jump in, be like,
You're
ready?
right. Let's go.
Okay. Madam Secretary,
Where's the joke?
oh, wait, no, where is your stuff?
Oh. Wait.
No, that's here, is that? Oh, this- There's two binders.
Oh, here you go. Awesome.
Oh,
All right.
apparently now there's one binder.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
All right. Okay. So the meeting is called to order at 6:46. Sorry, I've all been sitting here, it's not doing it. All right, Jean, were you gonna read the land acknowledgement?
Yes. Before colonization, settlement by people of European descent.
Wait.
Did you already take the roll?
Do we do quorum first because it's out of order?
I'm sorry, say
We
that.
have a quorum.
We do.
We have a quorum. Fine. Sorry, Jean.
No worries. Before colonization and settlement by people of European descent, the place we know as Evanston was home to Wanami, Odawa, Ojibwa tribes, also known as the Council of the Three Fires. It also served as an important crossroads and meeting place for a number of other indigenous tribal nations, including the Ho-Chunk, Illinois, Onoka, Kickapoo, Miami, Menominee, Peoria, and Sac and Fox nations. We acknowledge and honor the original people of this land, as well as the indigenous people that still call this area home, and support their continued work for justice and self-determination and sovereignty. In so doing, we honor Indigenous protocol, remind ourselves and our community that land acknowledgements do not exist in the past tense.
Great, thank you. Roll call, Amamu,
Present.
Dada,
Present.
okay, Folds,
Here.
Huggins here, Kelleher,
Here.
Mills,
Here.
and virtual, Shay, here, Shire,
Here.
and virtual, and Wallen.
Here.
All right, thank you.
Oh, so that was out of order.
You have to vote.
Right.
To allow them to participate.
So do we have to amend the agenda to include that as an item, or? I think we should.
It's a
So-
standing, at city council, it's a standing agenda item. So
A standing
I
agenda item.
noticed that if they have it to vote, or to vote, that they can. Virtual meeting, vote.
But it's not a standing agenda item on our agenda.
Right.
So we have to add it as an agenda item. So is there a motion to add an agenda item? To. Approve participation by virtual members.
So moved.
Second.
Aye. Aye.
I.
Aye.
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 They don't vote.
Yeah, you guys don't vote yet.
Yeah. They're not allowed to yet.
That was Folds,
Aye.
Huggins, okay, sorry, we do this properly, Folds,
Aye.
Huggins, Kelleher,
Aye.
Mills.
Aye.
Oh, sorry, no else, virtual, Shay,
Aye.
yeah. Yes, motion carries, and Amano,
Yes.
I mean, you're a little rusty. You've never done this before. It's the first time.
oh, word, okay.
Okay, did I say out loud, is there a citizen comment?
I can say it yet.
Okay, is there citizen comment?
There is not.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Yes.
All right. Motion to approve the consent agenda, Amano,
Yes.
Dada,
Yes.
Folds,
Yes.
Huggins, yes, Kelleher,
Yes.
Mills,
Yes.
Shay,
Yes.
Shire,
Yes.
and Wallen.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Now the library director's report.
Hello, welcome. Thank you, trustees. My report is in your packet. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer it. Just want to point out the two items on the update that the main library roof replacement project is now scheduled to start next week because of the snow and freezing temperatures this week. They delayed the start till next week. I did include in the packet the newsletter that the city put out about the project. And then the other item I wanted to point out was that in a few weeks is the Public Library Association meeting that's in Minneapolis this year, and we have 5 staff probably to attend that meeting. So that's something that I know that you all agree is important to allow staff to attend professional development and professional conferences. So we're looking forward to hearing their reports when they return. And I'm happy to answer any questions if you have.
Are there any questions? Seeing none, thank you very much. Now we're ready for the staff reports, the administrative services report.
Hello.
Hello.
For administrative service report, you have everything in the package, but just like you want to know for the facility manager. He will be joining us hopefully by April 20th. Yes, we have given him the offer letter and it's on the regular testing and like physical testing that we put the future, so hopefully if it clears up then it will be that April 20th will be starting. As far as the finance is concerned, we are still receiving the levy from the Cook County. The number that we are seeing in the report is for the February 28th. And right now, like this week, we have received in 3 pay grabs, so it's around like 94-95% of the levy that we have received. So we are still in the process of receiving levy, and we don't know like when we get it, the whole chunk together. And when we'll be starting to have this year's levy. So we haven't heard anything from Cook County with that. And if you have any questions about the report or anything, that's it.
Are there any questions? No, thank you very much. Now the facilities report.
Yeah, the facilities report is also in your packet. I mentioned the roof project, which is the big portion of that, but we had a couple of minor repairs this month, nothing major, and so I'm happy to answer any questions if you have them.
I actually do have a facilities related question. Is the internet down? Literally right now? Like, or is it just me?
It's working.
I'm kicked out.
It's just
Oh, no.
you.
Slow for me.
Okay,
It has been slow.
okay. Huh. All right,
Here we go.
maybe that's why. Okay. Who knows?
The internet is working.
Your internet's working, okay. I mean, this is a reason to not go to digital only things because
Right.
like I can't get back to the report. Okay, thank you. I did have a question about the roof. The roof is gonna start next week. How long will the roof repair take?
The anticipated timeline is 6 to 8 weeks, but that, you know, depends on the weather and things related, but it was supposed to start this Monday, but because of the snow and the freezing temperature, they delayed it till next week, so assuming they can start next week. It should be maybe the first week of May or beginning of May, mid-May.
Or the mercy of the weather.
I guess it doesn't make sense to do the roof when it's raining and snowing.
There's like thunderstorms, of course, they are very high winds, like they've been having.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So
okay, cool, thank you. Now the monthly development report.
Hello.
You have the monthly development report in your packet. I have a lot of additional comments The February donation activity was fairly normal for the month, but in April, we will have the first quarter report. We did concentrate on donor stewardship and outreach in February, and it was much appreciated by the donors. I received lots of nice little emails and just back from donors, just thanking us for some of that outreach. And this month, I've been working with a few specific board members to outreach and to targeted potential donors, so hopefully we'll have some nice information coming in the future on those. And we are planning to launch the spring appeal around the end of this month, the very beginning of April. And that will include mailings with the annual report, but we will also be hoping to have a small special event with that. We'll be doing a small event for former trustees as well, and trying to just wrap a little bit more around it than we have had in the past. That's my report. If anybody has any questions?
No.
Any questions? No. Thank you so much. Now the 2025 year end report.
This report would be consisting of three accounts. First account is our operational account, then we'll be talking about our debt services, and then we'll be the capital improvement services. In capital, we haven't done anything. There wasn't any major project. Only thing we did was the transfer of amount. If you remember, like last 3 years, we had a deficit of 643 something amount of money. It's really awesome. It was around 693,564 amount that we transferred from operational to the capital account. So that was the only thing. We will be more talking about our operations, where we were and how much we have spent it. If you see, like there are two tables that I have made. First slide would be showing you about what we had for FY 2025, because we didn't receive more of our levy.
There we go.
We didn't receive more of our levy from 2025, so I have made like what levy tool that we have as of today. So I think it has been discharged. I can talk you out. So we didn't have the more of our levy, so I just put it what we have as of today. Then our next slide would be what will happen if we have more levy. So that was the two slides that I have differentiate. As far as our revenues are concerned, like we did in our donation, we get revenue donations like as we were like around 400,000 we budgeted, we received around 443,000 in that. Usually even compared with the last, comparing with the last year's 2024, we almost like we get donation somewhere around 450,000 or somewhere around 400, between like 400 and 450,000. But if you remember, we increased the donation. We thought like last year we might reach around 500,000, but we were unable to do that. But as far as the budget is concerned, we were more than what we anticipated. Investment of the income, that's always been the hidden part, I would say. Like usually we receive more and we always budget less because we want to be more prudent on that. And also there is this factor of interest rate getting down. So we always put like 25,000 because before COVID, usually we used to receive around 20 to 23,000. After COVID, like interest rate went very high And then we were predicting like it will go down, but last year it didn't go down. And we anticipated, so that's why like we, investment of income, we received more amount than what we always budgeted on that. Then we had the library generated incomes, that mainly consists of vending machines, revenues and photocopy. So that we received more than what we anticipated this year. So overall, like, if you exclude what we had, like it's around 96%, but if we receive all the levy, it will be around 103% of the revenue what we budgeted from that. As far as our expenses are concerned, we spend more in few areas, but spending more means it doesn't mean like we didn't knew like these expenses would happen. We knew like, for example, our collections, we knew like 50,000 will be doing more because we were having our own overdrive. So before we were contracting for the overdrive, we already calculated like we will be having this much amount extra like from investment. And then also like if you remember, there was one position which we hold, the safety monitor position which we hold, because we thought we already have 4 safety monitors, we don't need extra, so we just hold that position. So we knew like, okay, if we are spending or we are doing a contract with anyone, so we knew like, okay, from where we are getting those money. So if you see like overall budget, it was 98% spending. It wasn't like even 100%, so we were within our budget. But in few areas we spend more, like I said it about the collection. It was the overdrive that we paid 50,000 extra. Then in our miscellaneous expense, it consists of our training and development. So the PF training that we did the contract. So that's why like it wasn't in our budget when we initially budgeted. So PF training wasn't there. So that's why we have more in miscellaneous expense. Then on our consulting services, in consulting services, I would say our consulting services would be divided in 2 halves. First half was the one where we didn't have the marketing person, we didn't have our facility manager, so we hired from the third party. So we paid in that much more. Then in the second half, we had the contract with HR source. Then we had the lawyers fees. And then we had the consultancy fees. So that's why it went higher than what we had anticipated on that. And also I need to add one more thing in the miscellaneous expense. We had RFID taggings and other stuff that was taking place. That's why it was more than what we anticipated. So if you see, as of FY 2025 with having the levy 92%. So we have a deficit of 791,000. And as I said, we are still receiving the levy. But what if we receive all our levy? So if once we receive our levy, we'll be deficit by around 59,000. So we anticipated when we were making budget like we'll be using around 543,000 from our budget. But once we receive our levy, it will be around 59,000 that will be taking out from our reserves. Then board always asks me like how our reserves look like and where we are standing right now. So for as of February 28th, we had the after transferring to the capital account, we had the reserve around 4.2 million. Once we receive all our levy and everything, it will be around 4.9 million. And our endowments are around 5.1 million. There is a question right now, like I'm still working on Vanguard thing. Like, do we need Vanguard or not? We'll be having meeting with the Evanston Foundation, and we'll be working on those because, to my understanding, was we have put Vanguard because we have the stock that goes on sale, but I have to talk with Evanston Foundation. If they are taking the stocks, then we might close that account once everything is approved and once we know like, okay, what we be getting and how much return we have got the foundation and versus Vanguard. As far as our library debt service is concerned, these are the debts like, if you remember, I showed you the chart from 2013. So those were the amounts, and these are the amounts that we have to pay because it's bonds that already been issued, and we will pay in, I think, 2049, if I recall correctly. And for capital, it's just the transfer of amounts, and we expected for the roof that was 1.9 million. Then we had the AGI thing, IGA thing, in which like right now we said it's like 50% city would pay, 50% library would pay, according to 2014 Act contract that was done. So this have changed this year to 1.1 million. That's it from my side. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Are there any questions? I'm gonna start, looking at the trustees who are online first. Any questions? No? Any questions? I don't have a question. I do, but I do want to say that looking at a report like this is very heartening. Most people often we say disheartening, but it really is like a good feeling to see what development has done in terms of increasing, being over in raising money, and then just being good stewards of the public funds. Like, I mean, this is really difficult work, especially with not receiving our levy. So, well done. Thank you. Thank you. Get a piece of paper would have been easier. Okay, so now we're into board reports. I do have some comments that I will then forward to be included. Last month, I spoke about legacy and what it means to lead in a way that shapes what comes after us. This month, we're being asked to live that idea in real time, because leadership is not only tested in moments of stability, but also revealed in moments of transition. And we are in one of those moments. As a board, our responsibility is stewardship of this institution, of its resources, and of the public trust. And that means ensuring continuity of leadership, which we are actively doing through a structured interim search process. And that also means staying grounded in the work itself. In the midst of this transition, this library continues to serve its community every day through almost, like in the last month, 200 programs, 187 programs, thousands of interactions, and the quiet, consistent work of access and connection. And that work doesn't pause. But I do want to acknowledge that there's been a conversation about some of our recent decisions. And I understand that in moments like this, people want clarity. But what I'll say is that governance, especially when it requires personnel or when it involves personnel, requires both transparency and confidentiality at the same time. And those two things may feel in tension. But both are essential to doing this work responsibly. Our role is not to respond to every headline. Our role is to lead with care, with discipline, and a long-term view of what this institution needs to do in order to remain strong. So the question before us is not simply what's happening now, but how do we lead in a moment that strengthens what comes next? And that is the work in front of us. And I believe we're all committed, irrespective of our roles, to doing that well. Thank you. Next is the finance report.
Hi, everybody. Greetings from Rochester, Minnesota. All right, so I think you heard Samir's updates that we've received almost all of our funds from Cook County. I probably also heard Heather mention that the roof work is expected to start next week, which will be great timing for our new facilities manager. They mentioned it starting next month. We expect the city to issue some bonds to cover the costs for the roof work. No action will be expected from the board, as we already approved all of this spending with our 2026 budget. The finance committee last week met to discuss the interim ED search firm selection from the RFP that had been issued. So I'm going to go over that for my comments and the updates from the committee. As reflected in today's board packet, the finance committee met on March 12th to review the interim ED search firm RFP responses using the published gate review items and scoring criteria. The committee aligned on a few gate interpretations to apply the RFP consistently, and that alignment is reflected in the finance minutes. Based on the evaluation, the Finance Committee has recommended DSG Koya as the preferred proposer and requested that the board president or designee proceed with negotiating a board-ready agreement consistent with the RFP and the guardrails identified by the committee. Those guardrails include clarifying fees and expenses, setting clear reporting cadence and timeline milestones, and completing at least one client reference call as due diligence prior to the board consideration. A contract is not before the board for approval tonight. The goal is to bring a board-ready agreement forward at the earliest practicable meeting, either the next regular meeting if ready, or otherwise via scheduling options noted in the finance minutes. Does anyone have any questions?
No.
That's all I had.
Hey, thank you very much. Next is the management committee meeting.
Hello, everyone. Greetings from Dallas, Texas.
No.
We did not meet this past this month. We not had our regular scheduled meeting, but I did want to say that we were talking about having a mini retreat because of so many things that are going on. I think that the best thing to do is maybe break it out into smaller chunks over the next few meetings and really get into making sure that as a board we are aligned and we have an understanding of expectations, especially OMA and other things like that. So I just had for our next meeting for us to go over a refresher of OMA and then also to go over our governing documents, just being able to know where they all are, what they each speak to, just so we're clear on that. So that is all I have for the management committee meeting update. Are there any questions?
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Facilities?
As Samir noted, there will be a new FMM report starting April 20th. Roof project delayed. I will work to set a meeting not too soon after the estimate starts, the level settle. So maybe like mid, mid-May.
Makes sense.
That's all.
Thank you. DEIB will be yours.
Good evening, everyone. So DEIB committee met on March 10th. In that meeting, so the previous month, as you know, management committee joined DEIB just to discuss structure and ways of moving forward. From that meeting, we discussed work units. We are discussing whether or not we feel that we need to expand on what is in the bylaws and create a charter. And so we are looking into that. That's the end.
Any questions?
I just wanted to add, and I think Esther will also jump in here. We didn't have quorum. And we had some discussion about how do we keep the momentum going, because we haven't had a consistent group attending. So there was some discussion about how do we sort of re-engage people to sort of get back. I don't think we reached any final decision, did we, Esther?
Because we didn't have quorum, we only had discussions, so there was no decision made, any decisions that were made. It was primarily just updates about the work units.
Okay, thank you very much. Communications.
Yeah, communication committee met on March 3rd. The minutes are in your packet. We had 3 topics. We first got a report from Ellen on the content accessibility guidelines that are being updated, and they're making great progress. Secondly, we talked about the Digital Library Protection Act, which is House Bill 5236, which is actually in hearing today in the House Consumer Protection Group in the legislature. And this is an important bill for us because the libraries are typically paying 4 times for e-materials what consumers pay. So this is kind of the Consumer Protection Act. And as trustees know, Heather has sent some information about how to file a, what is it called? A witness slip regarding this to alert our legislators that we are interested in advocating for this. But where the communication committee comes in is in our next meeting in April. We'll be talking about how we can communicate to, our constituents and the public about this and how important it is to library budgets from a policy standpoint.
Yeah.
So more on that. We also discussed a potential communication toolkit, kind of a light guidance about how board members can communicate that we could incorporate into our orientation materials for new board members. I believe that is it.
Are there any questions? Seeing none, thank you very much. All right, now we're on to new business. First is the RFP Executive Director search update. Michelle really kind of outlined everything where we are to date. Is there anything else you wanted to include, Michelle? No? Okay. So what I can add is that we have begun to go, well, we've reached out to one of the only firm that met the requirements, but we haven't made much progress beyond reaching out. So the next step is following up with references, which that has begun, and then negotiating a contract. So there's not really much news in that regard.
I could say
Any
one thing,
questions?
Tracy,
Yeah.
which is that we originally on our timeline that was in the memo before this board last month, we were hoping to have the contract ready for approval. It did require a very quick turnaround on everything, but because of our regularly scheduled board meetings and the fact that we're all volunteers here, and I assume most people are going on spring break with their families, many people are, it was going to be very difficult to do a special board meeting between now and our next board meeting. The reality is just too difficult to do that and get a quorum together. And so this is probably going to slow us down by a month on the timeline. So while this firm was firmly committed to getting someone in place on our timeline, because we aren't able to get the initial contract in place, which does require the full board to approve it. By tonight's board meeting, it does mean that things will get slowed down just a little bit, but we are moving in due diligence and hopefully they are as well.
Okay, Communications Committee Charter.
Okay. You might remember, cast your memory back a few months when we were talking about an initial proposal to form a communication committee. And the management committee recommended that formation in their November 19th meeting. We refined our charter, given feedback from that committee and others on the board, on other trustees. And then once again, in the December management committee, included the communication committee proposal on the agenda and the charter. Now I have the charter here in hard copy, but I can also read it again. What we want to do is codify this, or what do we want to do? We want to just vote to establish the committee formally so that it can be part of the bylaws and an official committee. Shall I read the charter?
I think it'd be helpful.
All right. Here's the revision that we put together back in November. Communication Subcommittee is established to support the Evanston Public Library Board in ensuring clear, consistent, and effective communication between the library board and the library director, City of Evanston officials, and community. The subcommittee will work to enhance public understanding of the board's governance policies, procedures, and strategic priorities, while fostering transparent and respectful communication and conversation with all stakeholders.
Are there any questions or comments? Okay. So is there a motion to approve the communication subcommittee? Actually, before I do that, I just wanna make something, I just wanna add something to make sure that we all see it the same way. Is that I know there's been some conversation about individual board members are members of this community. And so they have a right to make public comment in city council. They have a right, the library board does not supersede people's ability to engage in civic discourse because they're on the library board. Does that make sense?
Yes,
Am I
they're
saying that
separate.
well?
Yeah.
Okay, so I just want to make sure that we all understand that the establishment of communications does not mean that individual library board members can't have communication without it going through the committee. Everybody, we understand that, right? Okay. We're all on the same page.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
I have a question, sorry, because when you bring that up, do you think that that's clear in the charter that was just read? Because like we understand that, and then we have a new board, new people will come in, like if this committee is going to stay on in our policies, do you think that the comment you just made is clear in the charter?
Just a point of order. I think we need a motion before we continue discussion.
Did I ask for the motion? Oh, thanks. I didn't ask for the motion. Is there a motion to approve the communications subcommittee charter as written?
So
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Discussion. Thanks, Victoria. I thought I'd already done that.
if I could just address your first question. I think that there are definitely these layers, and that's why we kept the charter on the broad side. I think when we get into a policy written around communication, we can specify those distinctions. One of the things that the committee was talking about in our last meeting was developing some lightweight guidelines for what members might expect in terms of what they might say as, citizens, which is separate from what the board would say as an entity. So I think those distinctions can be made at more of a policy level. And I think the charter is written is broad enough to allow for both of those scenarios.
I wonder if, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I just said thank you.
I wonder if the framing of the board, because it says support in ensuring clear, consistent, and effective communication between the board and the director of the city of Evanston officials and community. It says support, it doesn't say replace or, but I think your point is a good one. And I wonder if, yeah, I don't know how it could be changed. I'd have to really think more about it. Yes,
I
Kate?
think I have to agree with you in that it's something that I feel like we can address in policies or the information we share. Like when I started on the board, I had no idea that I kind of thought I shouldn't make public comment because I thought being on the board did supersede me.
Yeah.
So I think that having some sort of guidance, we can include that in that guidance or in those policies is, no, by the way, you are still a citizen first. So I feel like Jean's right, and that's something that gets addressed in or like the policy or the communication guidelines or board members. Makes sense.
I think the one thing that and I don't know that this is disagreement. I wonder if we're saying that the raison d'etre of the committee is to do X, that is the purpose of the committee. So whatever policies you make are designed to support its initial purpose. So if the initial purpose is to be the intermediary between the board and like the library director, for example. Like that would be a fundamental change in how the board functions, right? Or like the board isn't, there's never been a committee that is responsible for communicating with the library director. And we're now establishing that.
I think that's a good point, Tracy. I think in earlier iterations, there may have been drafts that said like between the board and staff, and we corrected to say that like the library board does not engage with staff. The library board has one employee, the library director. But it may just make sense to pull that out altogether. Michelle, I see your hand.
Um, I think I'm struggling with a question around kind of the governance question here also, which I can't tell if we're intending this to be a board committee and we're calling it a subcommittee for some reason. And if it's a subcommittee, what is the parent body here? Is it the president or is it this board? I can't tell where the authority is anchored and how does that fit within the bylaws? I think that speaks to what Tracy's question.
I think I was trying to be careful with verbiage and I was being it's a committee. So we would, our actions would go through the management committee and then to the board.
So it's a subcommittee of the
So it would be a subcommittee of management?
That would make sense because then, I mean, we can't speak for the president anyway, the president speaks for them, right?
So that would actually, this is a Robert's Rules thing that I don't know off the top of my head. If it's a subcommittee of the management committee, then it would have to be made up of the members of the management committee. So it could be its own committee. But I think Jean's point about information flow, you didn't say it this way, but how decision-making or information flows, what would be the most logical way? I don't think it should be a subcommittee of management. I think that would be unreal. It'd be the whole board then, right? Like everybody would be there. If the goal is to improve our communication and ensure that messaging is aligned, that seems like just a committee of the board to me. And but yeah. Sure, Heather.
I speak kind of to Michelle's point that this may require editing the language under the duties of the officer, depending on how this works out, because currently the bylaws under the duties of officers speaks to the president's role as the official speaker
Right.
on behalf of the board in matters of public interest. And the president, yeah, so you might want to look at the language under president
Right.
relating to conversation.
I think that I don't read that and say that it replaces the president as the official speaker. I don't read that there. But I could see, like, and I can't remember, maybe it was Rico, I think, who said just because we're reading it this way does not mean, future board reads it the same way. So I don't know if there's additional language we need to add to make that clear or subtract. I do think that the committee is really important, especially as we're, moving into a number of different transitions. I think it's even more important that we codify this committee. I'm not sure what would need to change, if anything. Does anyone else have any specific feedback on how this might change? To be clearer, yes, Michelle.
Well, I think the governance either needs to be more or less explicit for it to be effective. So that means I don't think our bylaws authorize subcommittees right now. And so I think that there needs to either be we have like standing committees or ad hoc committees. But if there's like a subcommittee that we're making, it does need to, I think, nest itself somewhere and for a purpose. And then it would need to be the committee itself that's then speaking and doing the work. And the subcommittee then is working through that nested structure. But I think I think we've all agreed that the purpose here is important. It's just, I think the governance is where we're kind of struggling, and how we fit that work lane into a place that gives everyone the authority they need to do to be effective in the work. Perhaps that's management committee, perhaps it's an ad hoc committee, I don't know, but I don't have any strong feelings about that. My only strong feelings are that we put it in the right place so that everybody feels like the work can get done effectively. And so the 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 OMA limitations on who can talk to whom to get the work done is like, I think, what is harming us right now. And so I want to make sure that this is put in the right place, and then the people working on the committee feel like the work they're doing can be done correctly, and that we're all talking to the right people at the right times, transparently, and in cooperation with the limitations on OMA that OMA puts on us, right? So I think that's why the governance question is important here, and I don't feel strongly about that as long as we get it right.
I know there was another concern about the language around how we behave or speak as an individual versus as a part of the board. Outside of the governance piece, I'm wondering if there is a way that we just can stipulate that in this language, right? So maybe it is something about in the trustee role. So it's like the communication committee is established to support this work for the trustees in their role as a trustee, or some, it might sound a little redundant, I don't know, but that might help clarify that individual citizen comment versus the function here, that might help us solve that. I don't know exactly how to say that, but I just wanted to share because I know that was a concern.
One thing that just popped into my head that I just feel compelled to say is that I can imagine for some people listening to us wordsmith might feel like a giant waste of time, but we actually can't do this outside of an open meeting. It has to be done this way. So I think that's another example of like, we can't legally have a side conversation about this language and then bring it perfect. So we have to have it together like this in order to get there. And I think that that's kind of an illustration why this committee should exist. That it would make things a lot smoother if a committee could meet, sort it out, bring it, and we just agree. But because we haven't had an opportunity to meet, we're having this discussion now.
The other thought would be if we needed to add into the charter something of this committee does not replace the voice of the president, or something that's added in, or in honoring the bylaws, this is in addition to that, or some way that we pull that language in.
Yeah.
It's a little bit circular, but a committee like this can actually help establish a framework for, this committee is kind of undergirding communications broadly. The president is the speaker. You as individual citizens are allowed to do it, say what you want as well. I think the purpose of a committee like this is to kind of clarify some of that through the actual operations of the committee. But we can certainly add more language, more specific language about this, what it is and isn't.
Yeah. My instinct would actually have less language.
Oh.
I would think that it would not be a subcommittee. It would be a standing committee of the board.
Yeah.
So I would say like the communication committee is established to support the Evanston Public Library Board in ensuring clear, consistent, and effective communication, period. The committee will work to enhance public understanding of the board's policies, procedures, and strategic priorities while fostering transparent and respectful communication.
Nice.
I think that solves the governance issue.
I
And it
think you're right.
also doesn't replace anyone's,
Say
yeah, sorry,
It's crossing stuff out.
right. I would cross out the word sub
Yeah, right.
and I would stop it. I would have a period between communication and between. That would just be a period. In ensuring clear, consistent, and effective communication, period. And I would delete between, everything from between to community. And obviously delete sub, and that would be it. Then that solves the, there's no obligation to us. What makes us assume that it's replacing is that we're saying who they're talking to.
That prescriptive
Right.
language.
What do you all think?
Since addressing Michelle's comments around governance.
It establishes this as a committee, so do we need to say this ad hoc committee?
Standing.
No, I would have it be a standing, my policy.
Oh, you make it standing, okay.
Yeah.
Would-
I mean,
Do we need a motion to approve that, or?
Oh,
do-
we have a motion on the floor.
There's a motion on the floor. I would friendly amend if and I don't remember who actually made the motion. You did? If you would accept a friendly amendment of removing sub and, removing between,
Between and community.
yes.
It's gone.
Hey, accepted.
Accepted, awesome. Is there any additional discussion?
Would somebody be able to just read it with the edits?
Sure. The communication committee is established to support the Evanston Public Library Board in ensuring clear, consistent, and effective communication. The committee will work to enhance public understanding of the board's governance policies, procedures, and strategic priorities, while fostering transparent and respectful communication and conversation with all stakeholders.
Nice.
Nice.
We all feel good about it?
Great. Done.
All right, let's call the roll.
All right. We're voting to approve the communication charter, so cross out sub. So read by G. Amamu,
Yes.
Dada,
Yes.
Bulls,
Yes.
Huggins, yes. Kelleher,
Yes.
Mills,
Yes.
Shay,
Yes.
Shire,
Yes.
and Wallen.
Yes.
All right.
All right, the next item is the facility policy update.
Yes, so this is a recommendation from staff to approve an update to the library facilities policy to make a clarifying point. To clarify that library sponsored after hours ticketed fundraising events that benefit the Evanston Public Library are allowed. The current language does not specifically address this. So it's vague and we want to make sure that it's clear. So, it's not changing what is currently there, except for adding a sentence that says the library may charge admission fees for after-hours special events solely for library fundraising. We can answer any questions if you have them.
Should we put move and should we move and then discuss?
Yep.
Right.
Is there a motion? Is there a motion to approve the facility policy?
Policy update.
Thank you.
So moved.
Second.
Is there,
Who's that? Okay, thank you. All right, discuss. I think that that's reasonable.
I did have a clarifying question, so, and maybe this is sort of getting into the weeds too much, so if there's an after hours event, say if somebody says, I want to get married here. Right? And all, I'm gonna pay proceeds, I'm gonna pay all to these, is that what we're talking about
No,
here, or no?
That's not,
No, what
that's not currently allowed, and that's not what we're talking about here. What we're talking about here is library fundraising events.
Okay.
To be able to have a library fundraising event at the library, in the library facility after us.
To have an event, charge like a ticket at admission price to benefit the library, solely to benefit the library.
Yeah. no,
I do see Sammy's point, which is that revenue generation sometimes falls under the heading of fundraising that benefits the library. And so I don't, to our prior conversation, that could be understood or differently understood. So does anyone think that there's language that makes it very clear that, like, it could be the insertion of a phrase like fundraising events such as engagement with library donors, something that makes it very specific that we're not talking about revenue generation broadly.
Heather, could you read the language again?
Sure, it's the sentence that would be added is the library may charge admission fees for after hours special events solely for library fundraising.
There's also the addition of the word outside.
Right, there's the addition of the word. So currently, the facilities policy says organizations using the public meeting rooms may not charge an admission fee. So to be perfectly clear, we would add the word outside ahead of organizations to that sentence. So this is, the requested amendment is that the library can have events that are ticketed for fundraising, not that outside
Not
organizations can rent our room and charge a fee for their events.
And this section is about admission fees specifically.
Correct.
So it's not about,
Samia's point, there is another section of the facilities policy that talks about the purpose that outside organizations can rent our space for, that they have to be like.
There is.
Public meetings or public educational events that they can't be for. I'd have to look at the exact language, but they can't be for commercial use.
immersion.
Yeah,
Commercial use or
somebody else can,
they cannot use it for.
Sale of property.
Can't be sale and it can't be political, right? Private
Social.
political.
Function, yeah, but it specifically currently says. The library's public meeting rooms are not available to commercial enterprises. Organizations or individuals that promote or cause the sale of property or services for monetary gain. Or for purely social functions designed for entertainment through companionship with friends and associates such as receptions, showers, birthday parties, dances.
there we go.
So that language already exists. So yes, the request we are asking for is under the section about admission fees. That outside organizations may not charge an admission fee. They can ask for a free will donation, but making such a donation must in no way be a requirement for attending the meeting. But the library may charge admission fees for after hours special events solely for library. So while the library is open, the regular hours, the events that are happening here are free to the public. But if the library chooses to have a after hours fundraising.
Something like how the Field Museum does, sleep at the dinos, if you were gonna have a sleepover in the library.
Yeah,
There's a book about that.
There is.
this book by it.
I think this language is clear.
I think it's clear,
Yeah,
especially
yeah.
since, thank you, Heather, I think that language, like,
Yeah.
yeah, I forgot about the language here.
There's a lot of language.
There's a lot of language. And we all have day jobs.
Yeah.
All
So
right.
are there
Thank you,
any
Hannah.
additional-
Yes.
Seeing none,
All right, call the vote.
call the question.
To approve the update the clarifying point to the facilities after hours policy. Amamu,
Yes.
Dada,
Yes.
Pulse,
Yes.
Huggins, yes. Kelleher,
Yes.
Mills,
Yes.
Shay,
Yes.
Shire,
Yes.
and Wallen.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Excellent. We have no items under old business, and our last bit of business is an executive session.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
can I have the binder?
Oh. Yeah.
That's why you guys usually sit next.
Yeah, that's why we usually sit next to you.
I'm like, do we always have just one
This is
binder?
fine. No. It's just, it's a seating issue.
It makes it seem like it's magical,
Yes,
and I guess it kind of is.
you know, Leah was in a hurry tonight.
Right? It's been a little fiddly today. Okay. Pursuant to 5 Illinois compound statutes 120/2A, I move that the Evanston Public Library Board convene into executive session to discuss an agenda item regarding personnel. This agenda item is a permitted subject to be considered in executive session and among enumerated exceptions under the Open Meetings Act. These exceptions are C1, C2, and are set forth as follows. A public body may hold closed meetings to consider the following subjects: the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of a specific employee of the public body or legal counsel for the public body, including hearing testimony on a complaint lodged against an employee of the public body or against legal counsel for the public body to determine its validity, collective negotiating matters between the public body and its employees or their representatives, or deliberations concerning salary schedules for one or more classes of employees. Is there a second?
Second. All right. Amamu,
Yes.
Dada,
Yes.
Pulse,
Yes.
Huggins, yes. Kelleher,
Yes.
Mills,
Yes.
Shay,
Yes.
Shire,
Yes.
and Wallen.
Yes.
All right, an executive session.
Yes. Yeah.
Terms of request for more information.
Not sure.
In terms of, you were talking about, protect.
Oh, yes, like, I mean, people ask questions that are just not answered sometimes, so. Yeah,
we were supposed to.
and also, I'm not sure if that's exactly true, but probably. Given that we want our time, we didn't meet our timeline deadline for Monday, so.
We'd have to,
Is there a company though? Cause I didn't see any memo.
oh, yes, DSG Koya.
Well,
mentioned during the
we should not say that
She said it.
until.
Well, it was
It's
said-
actually in the motion that we approved in the finance. So it's in the packet.
Okay.
Yeah,
I didn't see it. Okay.
But it's,
But did the whole board vote to engage them?
well, no, but Michelle
Oh,
mentioned that's the one where.
we voted to move them forward as a recommend, or as a preferred. I don't remember the
The
language.
whole board did not.
We have not chosen
We-
them, but
right,
they're
so-
under consideration.
Finance committee moved them forward, and then we used their name, and that's in tonight's packet.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks,
Yep.
Bob.
Thank.
Okay, so we gave the host.
But so, I'm gonna stay seated and let Heather handle it. I will screw something up. Oh, you're fine, Bob. You're
Can I
fine.
not answer your question? Now I'm like circling on, did I answer your
I
question?
think so.
Okay. Call me if you need me to answer it.
Okay.
Cause now I'm like, did I answer it?
I didn't hear what he asked.
I said, hi, I'm frozen cold, so. Tired.
Oh,
Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you.
You want me to start the recording before I leave?
Yes, please.
Oh, yes.
That would be fantastic.
Michelle's not here to do her duty.
I mean, I could jump up and do it, but
I couldn't hear that.
The
What-
starting the executive session recording.
I feel like I would.
Great.
Never mind these messages. Which I'm gonna be in my reading room, you're not supposed to be reading.